Alright guys, in this video we're gonna create a T-set or a teapot in the 3ds Max and Substance Painter. So we're gonna start off as usual with something simple like a cylinder. Then we'll be trying to actually develop this from a standard piece to something complicated. So we're gonna use, as always, the edge extrusion method. Keep holding shift all the time in order to manipulate the edges and move them, scale them, rotate them as you please in order to get the shapes I am trying to create here, or the geometry I'm trying to create. So basically first of all we're gonna try to block out the overall silhouette or the body of the teapot here, and this is important to get a feel of how this is gonna look overall and how we are gonna actually kind of block the overall geometry, and and this is going to be actually a really important thing to do early on, or if you have a good reference image from the side, this is going to be even better because you don't have to worry about proportions or anything like this. So right now we are working on the inner side of the teapot, and I usually don't actually try to kind of waste a lot of poly count inside areas that are not going to be seen in the first place. Right now I'm trying to chamfer these edges, as you can see here, using the chamfer tool in the editable poly, and I find that the chamfer tool is a very handy tool because it comes very handy when trying to smooth out certain hard edges and kind of create a nice curve in places where we want them to be. And of course it has some other purposes and kind of different abilities, but for the most part this is what I mostly find it useful for. So we are now in the bottom of the teapot, and I just kind of created a nice looking area, or a nice looking base, and as I said before, probably here we're not gonna waste a lot of geometry and polygons on the inner side because for the most part it's not gonna be visible. So and the distribution of the poly count is something really important. And right now I just created a sphere. This is important because this is gonna represent the cap of the teapot, and we're gonna go with a hemisphere because we don't need a full sphere. And this shape here, or this piece of geometry, is gonna be interesting to create because there is a handle on top of it, and it has to be attached to the base, or to this piece here, or this hemisphere. So we're gonna try first of all to actually we're going to try to find a way in order to match these two surfaces and connect them together in order to create what we really want to create. So we're going to convert this to editable poly and add a shell modifier because the shape originally was having one surface, or kind of has zero thickness to it, and right now we are able to actually control it and do whatever we want. In order to actually work on this, we only need one half because the other one is going to be taken care of automatically once we work on this one. And I'm trying to make this area here flat because as a hemisphere it has lots of triangles, and this is not really gonna help us because we want something we want quads because we want to do some maneuvers here, and triangles are not that flexible. So we will try to make sure that everything is flat and nice here, and probably we're gonna add a few edges because we want some we want to keep the flow of quads here because they are easier to work with, especially when we try to attach stuff and kind of build on top of other surfaces, so to speak. So here what we're trying to do is create a circle or a circular selection, and because simply we want to attach a handle here. So we'll see in a couple minutes how we are going to do this. So this here is going to be our area probably, and we'll try to connect certain vertices in order to be able to create a circle here. So of course this is not going to be super accurate. Alright, so inset once, and we're gonna connect these vertices together probably once we make sure that everything is in place. Alright, so let's start connecting these vertices. And the chamfer is actually what we are going to do here. So we're going to connect these vertices together, and we're going to chamfer the vertex in the center in order to create a circle of edges. And this is going to be our base. This is going to be our starting point for connecting the handle to this cap. Alright, and then extrude these edges a little bit, as you can see here. So this is basically how these two parts are going to be attached. And this is a very simple thing to do, nothing complicated about it, but it's going to be something that we need to do. I don't think that we can keep this separated because it's not going to have that nice effect of being welded and kind of attached. It's gonna look better. So right now this cylinder is gonna represent the handle itself, and of course we need to attach this together also. And if you want to keep these pieces separated, it's not gonna be that big of a deal because these pieces are gonna be small and they're not gonna be noticeable from a distance. But if you want to be accurate and create something that you'll be that kind of looks good from a very short distance, probably this is the right way to do it. So we are trying to establish the geometry that is going to allow us to create a bridge between these two pieces. So this is what we need to do, create try to do the same thing we've done in the hemisphere in order to connect this cylinder to this area. So as you can see here, we'll do the same process. We're going to connect these vertices together, connect them, then chamfer the vertex in the center. Probably this is not going to behave as expected. Somehow we are seeing some weird results. But for the most part, we can fix this. This is not going to be a big of a deal for us. So we're going to try to do this manually probably because it seems like for some reason these distances are not really accurate. So now we will try to connect these two pieces. So attach them first, and we're going to attach them first, then we're going to create a bridge. So attach these two, select borders, then create a bridge like this. Probably there are better ways to do this process, but I find this method to be working just fine. So if you have any methods of doing or connecting these types of things, like connecting cylinders and surfaces with cylinders and stuff, let us know in the comment section below. Alright, so we're gonna continue doing this, and probably Right now, I think for the most part, this piece here is completed for the most part, and we need to duplicate it on the other side and using the Symmetry Modifier. And the Symmetry Modifier is a very good tool that is going to allow us to avoid doing work on both sides. So it's really amazing when it comes to that. Alright, so right now we're gonna try to do the same thing and create a handle in the back of the teapot, because this is gonna be necessary, and in order to avoid creating that handle from scratch and kind of trying to do all the work we've done before twice, we're gonna borrow some of these polygons, just copy them and detach them from that piece, and you'll be ready to go to create another different piece. Sometimes we have to be a little bit smarter and use some of the assets we have, or some of the kind of standpoints or launch pads that we created before, so we don't have to start from scratch every time. And this is a really smart thing to do if you want to kind of speed up the process of creation or anything else related to kind of gaining speed and increasing your productivity. For example, the next teapot you're gonna create, you're gonna use the handle from this teapot. You don't have to create a handle from scratch. And, for example, if you create 10 different teapots, the 11th teapot and beyond probably is going to be a combination of pieces that you created from the previous teapot. So this is going to be really a useful thing if you can be very good at it, and very good at this. And actually there are guys who create very complicated, for example, just say robots, like people who create the Transformers robots, and when you take a look at the project they create, probably you're gonna think that this guy spent like 2 months working on this thing, but actually he created it in a day. How did he do this? He actually uses pieces that he created before, what we call a kit bash, in order to kind of bring the pieces that he used before and push them into one project and kind of attach everything together in order to end up with something magnificent. This is what we call being smart. Working smart sometimes is better than working hard. Alright, so we're going to try to position it in the right place. Alright, so we're going to try to do the same thing here and try to establish means for connecting these two pieces together. Okay, do this again and delete some of these polygons in order to actually connect these two pieces together. And if you see that it is necessary to change some kind of the size of some of these pieces, or the polygons of the separate pieces that you're gonna connect together, it's okay. because there needs to be a proportion between the size of these two different pieces. Alright, so we're gonna now try to create the next piece. Alright, so we're gonna try to basically this process is kind of repetitive, and we're gonna use it all over the place because it is useful. So we're gonna try to create or connect another cylinder here in the front. Alright, chamfer these edges is going to allow us to have more sides to this circle. Alright, so using this line, we're going to create the next piece of geometry that is going to be attached to the body of the teapot. Alright, so give it some thickness or increase the radius a little bit, and make sure that everything is going to be kind of calculated properly. Alright, so we'll try to make sure that the connection is going to be done properly. Alright, so right now we're gonna try to probably create the inner side a little bit, because this area here kind of is open from the, it's kind of one-sided, and this is not really something we want. So keep holding shift all the time in order to extrude these edges and create the inner side, since it is visible from the top, and when we look at it, it's gonna look weird and kind of transparent, so we don't want to see that. Alright, so we're gonna make sure that this shape looks smooth and arranged properly. The chamfer tool comes here very handy, and it helps to smooth things out. Alright, so right now we need to fix the geometry here, because it is a little bit messed up. So we're going to use the cut tool in order to connect these separated vertices and these open spaces. Feel free to do it the way you want, because there isn't really a particular way of doing this properly. The most important thing is that the mesh looks good when we are done. Alright, so right now we're gonna create two layers, one for the high poly and one for the low poly, because this is important for creating any game ready model. And yeah, right now we're gonna work on the high poly, and what we'll do is we'll create kind of support edges using the Swift loop. The Swift loop is a very handy tool, and it can do and create loops around edges very easily and very swiftly. So as always, we're gonna we're going to create these kind of create these edges around corners that we want to keep solid. Alright, so when we are done with any piece, we're gonna apply the Turbosmooth Modifier, and right now we're gonna bring the low poly version, and we're gonna hide. We're gonna copy some of these pieces again. Alright, so in order for this specific case, we're gonna convert the high poly over to the low poly because of kind of a reason that I cannot really explain in detail right now, which is the fact that I don't know how to actually explain it properly without kind of making it complicated. But it's a very easy thing to explain. But all right, so. Right now we are kind of removing all the edges that are not necessary because this is going to be the low poly version, and in order to do this, remove the edges using the control backspace from the keyboard. There are a lot of these to remove, and in this particular In this particular model, there are so many edges to remove because we converted the kind of the high poly version that was kind of with the Turbosmooth modifier, which will increase the poly count tremendously. And we collapsed that, brought it back to editable poly, and now we are trying to reduce the poly count and convert it to editable poly. So this will take a little bit of time, so bear with me here. And you don't have to follow me exactly what I'm gonna do. Make sure that you just don't remove the edges that affect the overall silhouette of the model, and anything else is subject to removal. You're gonna use Control Backspace a lot in this part. So we have lots of edges to remove here, as you can see. Make sure to keep just 1 or 2 maximum, because usually there is one that we need and the rest is gonna be actually not needed, since we are gonna use normal maps and other techniques to compensate for that later. Also, these vertical edges need to be removed or kind of reduced to half, because this is a little bit too much. And make sure you don't remove actually something important accidentally, because this is a very likely thing to do in these situations. So make sure that you are being careful and monitor everything closely. Alright, so this kind of has a little bit of work involved here, and looking back at this model I created, probably this kind of was something that I usually don't do like this, because creating the low poly usually does not take a considerable amount of time, since it is a very quick thing to do, unless the model is highly complicated or kind of needs special treatment. Otherwise, it's going to be very easy. All right, so when we are done with removing all the edges that are not necessary, we're gonna jump to the next part, which is gonna be creating the UVs. And of course, this part is not gonna be available here on YouTube. It's gonna be on Patreon. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this video and this part 1. And I will help to see you in the part 2 of this tutorial. Thank you very much, and yeah, thank you.